Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Chaotic Tavern. I'm your bartender, Dan, and I have a story to share with you. Happy Halloween, folks, assuming I get this up by Halloween. Seriously, I'm recording this at like 6 in the morning, trying to get this done as quick as possible. Life has been complicated. You know, in the world of storytelling, there's a thing listeners have called expectations. My parents had a lot of those, but joke's on them, I haven't met a single one. I squandered my youth and I'm spending my adulthood making silly YouTube videos. But in the realm of storytelling, failing to meet expectations isn't always a bad thing. Subverting what someone expects or anticipates can be an amazing tool for telling an amazing tale. It's one of the cornerstones of sharing a story or even telling a funny joke, and if you do it right, it can be an unbelievably powerful thing. For example, EA subverted everyone's expectations by making another lackluster Dragon Age game. It's not shocking that it sucks, I'm just amazed that they remember they own that IP. Having said that, today's story is a bit of an odd one. Normally, plot twists in D&D tend to go over like a wet fart during a colonoscopy, but this story stands out by actually being a pretty solid subversion of expectations. Then, the party subverts expectations themselves by being absolutely pissy about it. Spoiler warning, the twist is actually kind of obvious. This story is titled, My Players Didn't Like That I Tricked Them by user FolkSlyStupid. I've been DMing a group mostly online for a few months now. This is my first real campaign as a DM, to be honest. I found the group online and they're really nice people, so we've been playing together for a while. We started out playing twice a week, so our campaign progressed quickly, and we ended up completing what was meant to be a 2-year campaign in just 1 year. When I first designed this campaign, I wanted something intriguing with a twist. I created a BBEG, a deity who had been stripped of their powers under certain circumstances, leaving them broken. This deity began roaming the realms, trying to collect pieces of their scattered divinity to ascend once more. The once divine being wasn't necessarily good, so they chose a less than honest way to regain power. Disguised as a traveling merchant, they began subtly influencing people who stopped at their wandering store to perform specific actions that would allow them to gather fragments of their lost divinity. Not every task was evil, but they weren't always benign either. This character was meant to be a recurring NPC in the campaign, and that's exactly what they became. Think of them as something like the mysterious vendor from Resident Evil 4, always appearing when most needed and somehow having exactly what the players were looking for. But in this case, coin wasn't what the merchant asked for. Instead, they requested small favors or set the players on seemingly harmless quests. Yet, looking at the bigger picture, these tasks formed a tangled web, enabling them to manipulate the realm in a very Machiavellian way. So right off the bat, this is a solid NPC and a good storytelling device. The trope of a villain using the protagonist's trust to achieve his goals is a tried and true one, and for good reason. Most folks can probably recall a time when their trust was used against them in some shape or form. It's a crappy feeling. And seeing it happen to a character you like can pull a pretty strong emotional response. That is the beauty of writing, after all. Getting people to feel things. I seriously need to stress that there's nothing wrong with this method of building up a villain, especially if done carefully. When I read this, the minute I heard "Wandering Merchant doesn't want money," alarm bells began ringing in my head. If you're an RPG player and you go through with what that man wants, I can only assume one of two things. A, you're going to be the proud owner of a timeshare you can't afford somewhere one day, or B, you know what's about to happen and you're just along for the ride. In which case, I mean, fair enough. But based on the title of this story, it's probably safe to assume the party landed in the former rather than the latter. The vendor was the epitome of sleaziness. Honestly, I thought I made it clear he wasn't a good guy, but the players ate up his treasure offers and well-mannered way of speaking, like a frog swallowing a marble. Now they've reached the point where this vendor has been revealed as an ancient deity right on the verge of regaining full power. The twist? The players have to grapple with the fact that if he ascends again, it's partly because of their help. Which is exactly what I was aiming for. His return to divinity spells disaster. We're talking about fire and salt sweeping the realms, true cataclysmic events. This reveal happened last session, and I'll admit it left the players pretty shaken. Today though, I've received a few messages from them, saying I betrayed their trust and I shouldn't do things that play with their emotions or make them feel their character's actions were morally gray or even harmful. During Session 0, I mentioned that I wanted to explore something other than the classic goody two-shoes heroes trope, and they seemed on board. Now though, I feel like a jerk for not considering how distressing this might actually be for them. We've put our campaign on hold until we can figure things out. Honestly, this might not be as horrifying as some stories out there, but I can't shake the feeling that I'm watching my first ever campaign go up in flames, which, believe me, leaves a horrible taste in my mouth. So here we are. I'm hoping we can continue if it turns out this wasn't as upsetting for them as it seems now, but I'm also coming to terms with the possibility that this campaign might not reach its end. That's my story. TLDR. A recurring NPC turned out to be the BBEG, and my players got upset because they unknowingly helped his evil plan. Now they're not so sure they want to continue the campaign. Okay, so, that's an odd reaction. Like, so odd that I asked my wife to read the story so I could get a different perspective on it. My take was the players felt unjustly punished for being blind and stupid and probably ugly. My wife's take was maybe the players view their characters as a genuine extension of themselves. By failing to see what was happening, it's not just their characters that are monsters for letting this evil loose, but the players as well. Either way, this is an unbalanced response. If all of this happened just as OP described, it's hard to feel bad for the party. This is what they signed up for, more or less. You saw the sleaziest of sleazy guys just peddling magic artifacts, with no money exchanging hands and never thought to question it? I don't know, that sounds like a skill issue, boss man. Now, to be a little charitable to the party, maybe they just couldn't tell. Maybe they really were just heckin' bamboozled. OP doesn't give too many details about what was said, and I imagine that's for the sake of anonymity. I can't tell how mad the players actually are, but if they've gone out of their way to collectively message him and sprinkle a bit of salt in his DMs, they're probably a little miffed. This doesn't really feel like enough info to go off of though, so it's a good thing OP came back for another round and posted some follow-up info. Let's take a look. Edit. I didn't expect this to get so much attention. I can't really respond to each post, but I'll try to cover the main concerns people have raised. First, for those asking about the ages of the participants, they're all between roughly 25 and 30 years old. Some people asked about the hints I provided. Well, I tried to make this NPC as despicable as possible. Whenever they met him, I'd have a list of at least 20 clues hinting that he was something wicked. They never seemed to care. His greed was Gollum-level obsessive each time they brought him a fragment of his fractured divinity, but again, they didn't seem concerned. Others asked about Session 0. I used a broad checklist and explained that this game wouldn't be a straightforward hero kills dragon story. I told them it would be nuanced, involve moral questions, and that their actions would have consequences. They were fully on board back then. As for the tasks, they started off harmless, like unearthing a buried doll in the ruins of a burned-down mansion. If that wasn't foreboding, I don't know what is. And progressed to more harmful actions. They even incited a family into an internal feud that would ultimately lead to the family's ruin, because a piece of his divinity was bound to their bloodline. They didn't even bat an eye at that. No, they didn't know the reasoning behind their actions. The NPC never really needed to explain much. They always seemed on board with his favors as long as they got what they needed in return. I'm sorry if I didn't get to all the questions. It's hard to cover everything in a post format. Nope, I'm done. I'm with OP. Fuck these guys. Creepy Merchant offered you a magic item in exchange for digging up a doll in the ruins of a mansion? Absolutely not. If you're asked to do that and you don't immediately assume the quest giver is at the very least a witch, that's on you, dude. That's some spooky Halloween bullshit if I've ever seen it. Burn down what's left of the place and then throw the merchant into the smoldering embers. Or do everything he asks so you can watch the entire world burn instead. I'm not your dad. I can't tell you the right way to have fun. OP, if this story is true, you did nothing wrong, mate. Maybe the campaign is over, and that sucks. That hurts, and I get it. But not every group is meant to be. Not every campaign is meant to last, and that's okay. That's part of meeting people and trying new things. Maybe the next group won't be a bunch of gullible piss babies who are almost 30 and get distracted by the RPG equivalent of jingling keys. But to you, dear listeners, what do you think? Is OP a bastard and a tool for tricking his players, or did his party genuinely just drop the ball in a major way? Let me know in the comments down below. A huge thanks to everyone for watching. If you enjoyed what you saw here, be sure to subscribe for more content. You can also find my main channel in the description. I'd also like to give an even bigger thanks to my supporters on Patreon. You guys are a massive help, and I can't show my appreciation for you enough. I'll see you all next time for another round in the Chaotic Tavern.